The Clever Daughter.
Once there was a peasant who lived in a small house with his daughter. One day, the daughter came to her father with an idea.
Father, I think we should ask the king for some land to farm.
That's a good idea, dear. We can improve our lives with just a little bit of land for ourselves.
One day, the father and daughter were spading the land when they found a mortar of pure gold.
Dear, the king was so good to give us this land. Let's give him this mortar we have found.
But Father, if we give him a mortar and no pestle, he'll think we are keeping the pestle. I think we should just keep quiet.
I disagree. I am going to give the mortar to the king.
The father went to see the king.
Your Majesty, while spading my farmland, my daughter and I have found this mortar. You were kind to us, giving us the land. Now I would like to give you this gift.
Did you find anything else?
No, this was all.
What about the pestle? If there is a mortar, there must be a pestle.
Sir, this is all we found. Please believe me.
I don't believe you. Up to the prison with you until you decide to give me the pestle.
The father realized all too late that his daughter had been right. While he was in his cell, he sighed and talked to himself.
Oh, if only I had listened to my daughter. If only I had listened to my daughter.
The servants told the king how the peasant kept sighing. The father wouldn't eat or drink either. Finally, the king went to talk with the peasant.
Why do you keep sighing?
Oh, if only I had listened to my daughter.
Why? What did she tell you?
She told me not to give you the mortar. She said you would only want the pestle as well.
Well, if your daughter is so clever, tell her I want to see her.
The next time the daughter came to visit her father, he told her to go see the king.
Your father says that you are very clever. I have a riddle for you to solve. If you succeed, I will marry you.
I would like that very much, Your Majesty. What is the riddle?
Here is the riddle. Come to me not clothed, not naked, not riding, not walking, not on the road, and not off the road. If you can do that, I will marry you.
I will be back, Your Majesty.
The peasant's daughter went home. She took off all her clothes and wrapped herself in a big fishnet. Then she hired a donkey and tied the fishnet to its tail. The donkey dragged her along. She wasn't walking or riding as he dragged her along. She touched her big toes to the ground so that she was neither on the road nor off the road. She came to the king.
As you can see, Your Majesty, I have solved your riddle.
Indeed you have. I will let your father out of prison, and we can plan our marriage.
As was the custom, the king put his new bride in charge of all that his household and royal possessions. They had a happy married life. One day, two peasants sought the king's counsel.
Your Majesty, my foal ran off and lay down between two oxen harnessed to this woman's wagon. I want my foal back. After all, it belongs to me.
But you lost control of your foal, therefore the foal is mine.
Since the foal ran to your oxen, you may indeed keep it.
The peasant left weeping about the loss of his foal. He had heard that the queen was wise and kind-hearted. He decided to go to her with his problem. She listened carefully before she spoke to him.
If you promise to keep this a secret, I will tell you what to do.
Of course, I will never share what I have learned from you.
Tomorrow morning, when the king goes out to inspect his troops, take a fishnet and stand in the middle of the road. Pretend that you're fishing. Shake out the net now and then continue to pretend to be fishing.
After telling the peasant what to say if the king questioned him, the daughter told him to go on his way. The next morning, the peasant stood fishing on dry land. The king came by on his way to inspect the troops. The peasant left weeping about the loss of his foal. He had heard that the queen was wise and kind-hearted. He decided to go to her with his problem. She listened carefully before she spoke to him.
If you promise to keep this a secret, I will tell you what to do.
Of course, I will never share what I have learned from you.
Tomorrow morning, when the king goes out to inspect his troops, take a fish net and stand in the middle of the road. Pretend that you are fishing. Shake out the net now and then as if it were full. Then continue to pretend to be fishing.
After telling the peasant what to say, the king questioned him. The daughter told him to go on his way. The next morning, the peasant stood fishing on dry land. The king came by to inspect the troops.
What are you doing?
Your Majesty, I am fishing.
How can you be fishing on dry land?
There's just as much chance of my catching a fish on dry land as there is of an ox having a foal.
No, you didn't. You didn't think of this yourself. Who told you to be so clever and bold?
No one helped me, sir.
The king refused to believe him and had the peasant beaten. Finally, he confessed that the queen had told him what to say. The king went to his wife.
Why have you been untrue to me? You counseled this peasant behind my back. I won't have you for my wife any longer. Go back to the peasant life you came from.
I understand I have displeased you, but may I have one last request?
What would that be?
I would like to take along the dearest farewell gift I can think of.
I guess that would be acceptable.
Then if that is your command, I will obey it.
She threw her arms around him and asked him to have a farewell drink with her. She secretly slipped a sleeping potion in the drink. While he was sleeping, she called a servant and wrapped a fine white sheet around him. Then she had the servant carry him to a carriage. She took him home to her little house. When a day and a night had passed, the king woke up.
Where am I? Where are my servants?
Dear husband, you told me to take what was dearest with me. Nothing is dear to me than you, so I took you with me.
Dear wife, you are truly wise. We shall never part again. Let's go home.
The king and his wife returned to the royal palace. From that day forward, the king's wife helped him with many decisions in the court. In fact, I think they are still together even now.